Let's get right into it, bro. That practice yesterday and all the seasons you've covered. Where does that thing register?
At the top, if not the top. And again, Blake Bortles' 5-interception night is memorable because 5 interceptions. You just don't see that very often. The fans were chanting at him when he's walking out about the lemon bar. So it was an ugly night for sure. And they bounced back and they make the AFC title game that year. Kudos to Blake, and he gets paid, blah, blah, blah. This was worse, and I think this was worse because it was everybody. You can't have 7 drops by 7 different receivers, 10 penalties, some of them by the same guy, but 10 penalties across the board, sacks, poor throws by every quarterback. It was just a lackadaisical, just real late in camp. It looked like to me they were tired, and maybe they are. It hasn't been. I know Leon's going to push back here, but I'm not going to say it hasn't been a hard camp, but it hasn't been an easy camp. This isn't Camp Doug Peterson where they're barely putting on pads and certainly not going to hit and this, that, and the other. This is, they went pretty aggressively yesterday. It was a good hour and a half of solid scrimmaging. They're not tackling to the ground, but it was a pretty hefty scrimmage. And maybe they're at the point where they've just been hitting on each other now for a few weeks, been in full pads more often than not since they could put them on. And maybe these guys are just getting a little tired and dragging butt a little bit. That's the only excuse I could make. And we'll hear from the head coach today in a little bit. But that's the only excuse I can make for them, is that this is dog days of camp and it showed up a little bit. But it was the kind of practice where I was stunned that the head coach didn't stop it at some point in the middle, call the team together, and basically chew some butt,
right,
and be like, what is this and what's going on? And again, I think that's first-year head coach still trying to feel his way through. You have a first-year offensive coordinator, first-year defensive coordinator, all those things, maybe allow this to happen. But I can't imagine any other coach who's been here in Jacksonville, or certainly most of them, I can't imagine them watching that and not, even Doug Peterson, stopping that at some point and going, guys, this is not good. Or how about this, Matt? How about your leaders of the team call everybody together and be like, this is not good enough. We're better than this. Let's try again.
Yeah, that part.
What leaders?
What leaders? That's what I was trying to figure out, what part. And I left my violin in the car. Give me a break. They practice for an hour. That half is them warming up. Thank you, JJ. I really appreciate that. The dog days of camp, dog days of camp. I
know my audience.
Okay.
So I knew that was going to fall on deaf ears. But there's maybe some reality there. That's all I'm saying.
Well, Mark. So, okay.
Global warming, Leon. It's gotten warmer than when we played.
Okay, you're right. Global warming. It's hotter now than it was 30 years ago. You're right. So, Mark. Okay, all right. So we saw the bad. Now, how do you fix it? Because what you tolerate in practice is what you're going to see on Sundays. Who's going to fix it? The players or the coaches? I agree with you. At some particular point, yes. Thank you.
But they have to. Somebody has to make sure they know that it's on them to fix it, and that's the head coach. That's the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Somebody needs to call them in the room and say, and watch. Maybe it's when they watch the tape and be like, this is not good enough, top to bottom, across the board. Here's what I found interesting. After practice, the one position group that had to run, D-line. And I'm like, D-line wasn't the problem. I didn't run in Fred Johnson, who kept, false starting. I didn't run in my entire receiving core, who dropped, 7 to 8 passes. I would have ran my quarterback, with some of the poor throws they made.
All right, so let's get into some individuals, okay? And let's start right at the top, because this is kind of an issue that everyone's starting to now really focus on. It's been percolating for a while. Brian Thomas Jr. and what in the world is going on with his hands? You were talking about his attitude. Explain what's going on with him.
Well, he's had some drop issues. There's no doubt about it. And throughout camp, it has been a recurring theme. And he's been very animated on the field, throwing his helmet, just very disgusted. And most of that is with himself. But there was an instance yesterday where he turned toward the quarterback and raised his arms like, bro, throw the ball in the right spot.
Right.
And I think I don't think anybody in that building is going to have a problem with Brian Thomas Jr. being frustrated or even expressing his frustration by, being who he is and letting out some of that stuff. But you can't do it at the detriment of the team, and you can't do it at the detriment of another player. Sure, it was a bad throw, underthrown ball, isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you can't express that in front of, 90 players, 50 media members, guests galore. You can't have that. So I don't know. I don't think it's a problem by any stretch of the imagination. The guy is frustrated, but I could see where people in the building at some point would start going, okay, we can't have it look like this, where you look like you're frustrated with Trevor and, or blaming Trevor for something that clearly people who have watched this team for 3 weeks know that this is not necessarily all on the quarterback. It's a lot of this is Brian Thomas Jr. missing balls that are right there.
He's coming into his diva mode, bro. Was it a bad throw?
The one that he lifted his hands up, yes, okay. It was underthrown.
So Trevor needs to get the ball up. I mean, I don't have a problem. I mean, listen, he is clearly the best player on the team from last year. All right, it's no longer Trevor. He's the best player on the team for last. And if he's showing his frustrations on bad balls, now he got to be accountable for himself too, because you can't start the scrimmage with a miss and the ball that goes right through your hands. But if it's Trevor and he throws a bad ball and he calls him out, hell, it was a bad ball.
And conversely, Trevor should say, catch the ball.
And when he missed that ball, that first scrimmage, when he missed that ball in the start of the scrimmage, Trevor should have checked him. So you're not locked in.
You can do it more constructively than necessarily body language from 30 yards away.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the tackle situation, which is interesting because when camp began, the concern was the middle three, and now it's clear they have no idea what's going on at tackle. What's going on with Anton Harrison and the injury? Was he injured significantly or not? And what are they doing right now at tackle?
I think he just rolled an ankle. He definitely needed help to get off the bench and into the locker room. Who knows? I assume he'll be out this week. Not a guy like that. You wouldn't take and rush him back, I don't think. I think you probably give him some time to heal and get fully healthy on that. But the issue for me, Matt, is they want to sell it as, well, now we're cross-training everybody. Well, you didn't cross-train Walker Little in OTA. You didn't cross-train Walker Little through the first 3 weeks of camp. So I have a hard time believing that now, 3 weeks in, you've decided to take your left tackle and move him around because of potential injuries during the regular season. Let me ask you this, Leon, how many different positions did you rep at during your NFL career?
None.
And Tony Baselli never took a different snap other than playing left tackle. And all due respect to Leon, the most important position on the field for any quarterback, probably the right-handed quarterbacks even more so, is left tackle. So you're not moving Walker Little so that there's no – find me a scenario where you would move your starting left tackle because an injury happened somewhere else along the line. It doesn't happen that way.
Well, a guy you also just paid.
Well, that too. But my belief is, and I get it, I know what they're trying to sell. My belief is they have decided that Walker Little is not good enough at left tackle, or not good enough for what they want to do, which is they want to be able to throw the ball. They want to be able to, be very, balanced attack here, but they need to keep Trevor upright, right? It's the most important thing they're planning to do this season is keep him healthy and upright. And you don't do that if you've got a left tackle who's not great at pass pro. And Walker Little's much better run blocker than he is a pass protection. Well, the opposite side, Anton Harrison's a better pass protector than he is a run blocker. So maybe you got those two guys flipped, and maybe you get Anton. But, for them to be deciding that now, is a little bit of a head scratcher. But again, they didn't have pads. They weren't playing with contact in OTAs. They didn't have pads for the first week of camp. So, maybe it's just taking them a little minute here to figure out, hey, maybe we can do this better and give Anton a shot at left tackle. And that was the plan yesterday, was to move Anton over and have him take some reps at left tackle and have Walker play right tackle. The problem was Anton goes down the first series, early in the first series, and so now all of a sudden your whole plan's out the window. They continue to do it. They moved in Fred Johnson at right tackle and then moved Fred to left tackle and Walker to right tackle. But at that point, you're just, at that point, you're shuffling the deck that's, without having your ace, basically. You're not having the guy you're trying to shuffle the deck to get to left tackle. So it's a little bit of an odd situation. But anybody who'll tell you, oh, they're shuffling. Well, they haven't moved Ezra Cleveland. This guy can play 4 spots. He's played left guard entire camp with the one. They haven't moved Robert Hainsey because he's played center with the ones for every snap in camp. So this is new. And this is them clearly moving their tackles around to see if they can get a better result. I think the Mekari Edoga thing is a domino effect, right? You're rolling with Edoga at right guard. So now it's like, okay, Mekari, what do we do with Mekari? Well, Mekari maybe fits pretty well at right tackle. And then you're going, okay, maybe Anton. So you're moving some pieces, but I don't think it's ideal to be moving pieces this late in camp. At some point, you need to get your 5 and roll with your 5.
And you're going to sit the guy you just paid. He's going to be your swing tackle. Is that what you're telling me?
They didn't pay him.
I get that, but he's still a guy who just got paid.
Very clear. They paid Mekari, okay? They paid Mekari, and maybe they're looking, hey, how can we get Mekari on the field? Mekari's a good football player. Okay, so maybe Edoga's been a surprise. Ezra Cleveland's been a big surprise. They love Ezra Cleveland right now. Edoga's been a surprise. He's your right guard. So now they're like, okay, well, just because Mekari got a little back injury and missed some time, we still think he's good enough to be in the starting 5. But where does he fit in? Well, maybe he fits in at right tackle. Maybe Anton moves over at left tackle. And by the way, again, reiterate, they did not pay Walker Little.
Well, they're running out of time, Mark, and it feels like a Scrabble board. They're trying to make a word with an L, a Q, a W, a G, and an F.
Yes, I can't argue that. Now, I will say they like a lot. They do feel like they've got a lot of versatility and position versatility on this team, especially in some of these backup spots. We know Mekari can play all 5 spots. Wyatt Milan can play 4 spots. Edoga can play inside and out. So there is Ezra Cleveland started at left tackle for the Jags last season. So there is some position versatility along that line, and they know that. I think they've got some pieces. Where does Mekari fit in? Where does Fred Johnson fit in? Where does Anton Harrison do you best? And what is Walker Little? Is he a overpaid swing tackle, or is he maybe a right tackle? And here's the problem with that. He doesn't want to play right tackle. He doesn't want to play anywhere but left tackle.
Right.
He's made that very clear, and he made that clear last year, and he's made that clear this year. And he thought, until yesterday, he was settled in at left tackle. And for the last 5 months, it looked that way. And then the Jags threw him a curveball yesterday.
All right, so before we let you go, because we got to run here, Sunday, the Saints, I expect them to play a lot better. I think they'll be crisp. If they're not, if it's the same type of performance they had in week 1, then what?
I mean, then it's probably time to hit the panic button, right? Like, there are people who've already hit the panic button that practice. Certainly the defense against the Steelers. People hit the panic button already. But I think there'll be a wider swath of people hitting the panic button if they're not good on Sunday. I'll say this. Keep an eye on interior defensive line. I know Mason Smith and Eric Armstrong are working their way back. They expect them back next week, maybe even playing against the Dolphins. But the real area to watch is linebacker. They aren't really positive what they've got at linebacker at this point in the season.
Leon Searcy here. Thank you so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars on YouTube. Before you click away, please subscribe to the videos on the channel and be sure to check out our other team-specific channels on 1010XL
Network on YouTube.